been a wild ass week, hasn't it? Sometimes I record these episodes and the next day or 2 days later, I'm like, oh my God, all this stuff. I just talked about something that is important. I feel like I always try to talk about big picture ideas, so it's always relevant. But sometimes, like a day or two later, stuff happens. I'm like, oh my God, I wish that happened the day before, because then I could talk about it. Sometimes I don't wish that it wouldn't happen at all, right? So we wouldn't have to talk about it at all. But this week it's been like hour after hour, day after day. There's so much happening. So this episode is going to be about the planned takeover of the West, the planned destruction of the West, because everything that we're seeing play out is that. Let's get into your questions. Ben said, I recommend you get an interview on here with Lark and Rose. That would be a great guest to get on. And what are my thoughts on time travel? Do you think it's possible, and who do you think can do it, as we are one consciousness in a simulation and time is an illusion? Surprisingly enough, time being an illusion is one of the hardest things for me to wrap my head around. I mean, I know I believe in some far out there theories, but time being an illusion has always been a hard one for me to wrap my head around. But I know that it's true, and I discussed, going into your dreams for answers, and dreams do give you the answers when it comes to time, I believe, because in your dream, you don't know if it's a second long or a few hours long, and time sort of doesn't make sense and almost doesn't exist there. So that to me is proof that time is an illusion. And do I think time travel is possible, and who do I think can do it? I do think time travel is possible. I think I've mentioned the Philadelphia experiment briefly on here before, which pointed to the fact that time travel is likely real. If I had to guess, this is just a gut feeling. I have nothing to base it off of whatsoever. But if I had to guess, time travel is like glitchy. I think a lot could go wrong with it, even though that the technology exists. I don't think that it's heavily used, because I think that there's a lot of unknowns in it, and it's not worth it to gamble. That's just a gut instinct, but they have the technology. And who do I think is using it? I don't know. I don't know. People above CERN. I don't know who exactly is using it, but I do think that the technology does exist. Yes. And Connor said they walk among us. I think you're probably referring to when I was talking about the Anunnaki leaving here, and now they're operating from the unseen. In a nutshell, I think that the gods left, the beings at the very top of the hierarchy in ancient times. I think that they left and are operating from the unseen. But yes, the offspring of the demigods, so to speak, do walk among us. Hopefully that makes sense. Ron was referring to the start of Zoroastrianism, similar to the way the Mormons started. Some dude is visited by some spirit that inspired a religion. Perhaps I am missing something, but don't have patience for false gods. We are the power, and we must remember this to understand the enemy. An enemy can implement anything we think into the simulation for distraction and always depopulation. We are blind, but have the tools to see. There's a photo blown up on my wall from a wedding I had attended. A reptile had taken a selfie while I was using the camera. I was being harassed because I saw them. They don't want or like to be seen. They fear our awakening to fake control. They cannot survive without us asleep. Consciousness is our only salvation. We are spinning we are spinning vortex of energy of source with this is the love, life, and power of existence. Just a comment, no disrespect. Love the work that you do. Thank you. I agree with you. The reason I brought up the Zoroastrian stuff is simply because I'm trying not to have history repeat itself and to educate people. You know, it's not that I'm saying that like, oh, they had some insight that we don't have. No, I think that that all of these organized religions sort of mirror what was happening back then, and it's not often talked about. But I agree with you completely. And then Bruce wrote a response and mentioned dinosaurs, and then Rose followed up and said dinosaurs are a myth. Actually, that's an interesting rabbit hole, and I've thought about doing an episode on it. Apparently, dinosaurs are a myth, and actually there were dragons, and they want that all covered up. You know, these fire-breathing dragons were actually supposedly a real thing. But they want people to think that dinosaurs are, you know, hundreds of thousands of years old, and these dragons were much closer to us in time than I think we realize, and there's a bleeding over of stories, and the dinosaur myth is an interesting rabbit hole to go down. So hopefully we'll get into that at some point. So initially I was going to dedicate this episode to nukes being fake. I've briefly talked about it in one of my first episodes. I think it was like episode 3 or 4, something like that. I touched on it, not for very long, but I was gonna talk about that for the whole episode. Truthfully, I feel like the experts who understand the scientific jargon behind it all explain it much better than I can. It's just, even though I understand it, I don't think I can explain it as good as they do. So what I'll do, if you're interested in that rabbit hole, and I highly recommend going down it, is give you all of the books and videos that I've read and watched about it. I've mentioned this one book to you guys before. It's called Hiroshima Revisited by Michael Palmer. You can get it for free on archive.org. But he basically suggests that that nukes were not used in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and that there's vast evidence that napalm and mustard gas helped fake the atomic bombings. So I highly recommend that book. If you don't want to read the book, there's a video from the Germ Warfare podcast from 2022, and Michael Palmer, who was the author of that book, is on one of the episodes from Germ Warfare. So if you Google Michael Palmer Germ Warfare podcast, it should pop up. Also, there's a book called Death Object by Akio Nakatani, and so Michael Palmer, who wrote Hiroshima Revisited, he doesn't necessarily say nukes are fake, but he just shows that the 2 atomic bombs that were supposedly used probably weren't. Now, Akio Nakatani shows evidence specifically that nukes are fake. There is a video. It's I think it's like 3 hours long. You can find it on YouTube or Rumble, and it's documentary style. Eric Dubé's nuclear hoax, and another video, the nuclear scare scam, which has Galen Windsor in it, and he's eating uranium to prove that it's harmless. Now, Galen Windsor died at 82, and I think it was leukemia that he had or something. I don't know. Somebody said that he had leukemia. Somebody said that he had something else. I don't know what he died from. Either way, he lived to be 82. And the video is not long, and you can see what he says, that he worked directly with this stuff, and he said that he used to swim in pools full of it and everything. So he does at one point in the video throw up like a triangle like this, and they have the fake American flags in the background, the ones with the gold tassels, which is not the real American flag. That is the Corporation of America flag. So even though I tend to believe what he's saying, I sort of question his associations. I think the video is from like the 80s or something. And then the last one is Dr. Tom Cowan and the hoax of nuclear weapons. He's definitely, his videos are newer, and he is very logically fact-based. There's no ifs, ands, or buts with his stuff. He's a little more on the boring side, in my opinion, but he doesn't fray into these fringe ideas. He sticks straight down the line. So I definitely recommend all of those if you would like to go down that rabbit hole. Now, because that has been on the forefront of my mind all week, I've been sort of looking out for, things that people are saying within the government to allude to anything making fun of us for believing in the nuclear scam. And I found something. Check this video of J.D. Vance out, where he's joking around about Trump saying it's nuclear, and like joking around about something that shouldn't be joked around about, and then says it's the Diet Coke button. Just watch this and you'll see what I'm talking about.
The president looks over at me, puts the foreign leader on mute, and says, "This is not going very well," and he presses the red button. And my eyes get really big, and I'm like, "Mr. President, what just happened?" And he looks at me and he goes, "Nuclear." Nuclear. And 2 minutes later, a guy walks in with a Diet Coke, and he looks back at me and he says, "It wasn't nuclear, it's just the Diet Coke button." And that's... So that's the kind of guy, and my fellow Republicans, that we have as the President of the United States.
What do you guys think? Do you think I'm just overanalyzing that? It's something that you don't joke around about like that. I know that they're trying to make it appear like they saved the day by doing these 3 bombings in Iran, but that's never the case. Anytime you are sending bombs anywhere, it's not a good thing. So to be all lighthearted and jolly about it, and then basically say like, "Oh no, we were just playing around. That was the Diet Coke button." I don't know. I think that tells me a lot. Then again, a lot of these people are psychopaths, and they just have no remorse for the things that they do. In a previous episode, I can't remember who it was. I think it was 2 or 3 weeks ago. I didn't have time to answer the question, but one of you asked, do you think Peter Thiel is on drugs or drunk because he's constantly going like, and he's sweating bullets constantly?
You sold any of your Bitcoin?
I still hold some. I've there are all these ways I didn't buy as much as I should have, and I'm not sure it's going to go up that dramatically from here.
From here,
I actually don't think Peter Thiel is on drugs or drunk or whatever. I actually think Peter Thiel really knows what he's doing is wrong, and he has a little bit of a conscience left, and he feels guilty, and he's in too deep. Most of these people in positions of power are sociopaths, psychopaths, narcissists. But I think that once in a while, you'll find one who's just a really, really good puppet. And I think the reason Peter Thiel is constantly nervous and not very slick is because he knows what he's doing is wrong and he has no way out. And this is sort of, I'm veering off a little bit off topic, but everything that we're going to be up against moving forward, it's hard to not grow resentful and hateful of these people pulling the strings all up in the hierarchy. But really, we should feel bad for them. Like, their existence must be freaking miserable. And they don't know the beauties of life. They likely don't experience any of that. You know, they don't know what true love is. They don't know what working hard, working your way up legitimately without getting shortcuts and, you know, help because you're compromised. They don't know what that feeling is like. And it's full of darkness, what they're doing. So their life has to be miserable. And it's hard, but I think we have to kind of almost feel sorry for them, look at them with pity in a way, and hope that at some point that they redeem themselves, because I actually don't think it's ever too late to say, hey, I got into this too deep and I want to get out. Because a lot of times we make mistakes and we don't know how to backtrack. See, the thing with this cult is it's almost impossible to backtrack because they threaten your life, they threaten your loved ones' lives, you know, and they offer you so many things that you can no longer live without, and or they'll ruin your reputation, you know, completely ruin your reputation. So I think that's what's going on with Peter Thiel. That was a total side note, but I actually think he's one of the ones that might not be a full-blown sociopath and knows what he's doing, because he gets really nervous when confronted with the truth, and that says something. Right now, they're starting to move really fast. Everything is rolling out from here on throughout the rest of the year. Everything is going to move really fast, which tells me that they're going to completely bombard us with distractions. So I always say, when the distractions roll out and everybody's looking that way, you got to look that way. Okay, so it sounds simple, but it is true. And we also have to remember to take care of ourselves in this process. It's okay to take a break from this information. It's okay to do something for yourself. It's okay to put yourself first right now, because if you go into martyrdom and you're not creating a ripple effect of emitting a high frequency, what good are you going to be to other people? Now, I'm not saying to turn a blind eye to the dark truths. I think that we have to confront them head on. But one thing that has been coming up for me this week in conversation with a few listeners and a few people in my life and stuff is like, we have to focus on what we really want and not what is right in front of us playing out. And it's a fine balance, because you don't want to ignore what's happening, because then if you're positive and ignoring what's happening, then I've talked about it before. I talked about it last week to Christopher, how if you don't combine the knowledge with the positive thought, then you can become delusional. It's such a fine balance, and I think that all of the big personalities in the truth space who are legitimate we're figuring it out. Like, you're watching us figure it out in real time because we want to tell you the truth. But we also, I mean, I certainly don't want to be blackpilled. And I do know that if enough of us are envisioning a different future, that we can achieve it. But we can't turn a blind eye either. It's a really tricky balance, isn't it? Okay, so they're moving fast, and Iran is the boogeyman that they need for the East to take over the West. This is what the alt-right media, I mean, I know there's a divide between MAGA on the issue of what Trump did with Iran. He just solved all of these problems with bombing Iran. Everything's going to be great, and now we're going to have peace. It's like punching somebody in the face and saying, the fight's over, you know, when the other person didn't have a chance to hit you back. What do you think's going to happen? So they can say everything that they want about these ceasefires, whatever. We know the long-range plan, and Iran is the boogeyman that is needed for the East to take over the West. These right-leaning talking heads are either really gullible and naive or getting paid to say what they're saying. How could you be a political commentator who pushed back so hard on COVID and the ethics of COVID and the woke agenda and all that stuff, but not see the problem with bombing Iran? Like, it's a question of morality again. You know, it's wrong to take away people's freedom. It's wrong to kill. The irony in all of this is, like, you know, all of these religious figures in the alt-right. Doesn't your 10 Commandments say, or don't your 10 Commandments say, thou shalt not kill? What happened to that? What happened to that? Oh, it's okay to kill when it's your team. The only time it's okay to kill in my book is if it's right in front of my face and I have to fight for my life. That's the only time, is like self-defense when it's on your front door. Otherwise, if it's not right on your front door, chances are you don't know what's going on behind the scenes. So, moving on. There is a likely expansion of the Abraham Accords. And if you know anything about the Abraham Accords, you know that an expansion of them is not good. Steve Witkoff, the special envoy guy, said, new countries are joining the Abraham Accords. We will have a big announcement soon. We also hope that countries will enter the process of normalizing relations with Israel. Now, they're pitching it like it's some great peace deal, right? But really, it's just going to put Israel in a position of power over these Arab countries.
The objective is that the Abraham Accords be expanded, that more countries come into it, and we are working on that on my team and in coordination with the Secretary of State and the entire State Department. And we think we're going to have some pretty big announcements on countries that are now coming into the Abraham Peace Accords. And we're hoping for normalization across an array of countries that maybe people would have never contemplated would come in. So we're excited for that prospect. That will also be a stabilizer in the Middle East.
So, as per Wikipedia, the Abraham Accords are a set of agreements that establish diplomatic normalization between Israel and several Arab states, beginning with the United Arab Emirates and Bahrain, announced in August and September of 2020 and signed in Washington, D.C. on September 15th, 2020. The accords were mediated by the United States under President Donald Trump. The UAE and Bahrain became the first Arab countries to formally recognize Israel since Jordan in 1994. In the months that followed, Sudan and Morocco also agreed to normalize relations with Israel, although Sudan's agreements remain unratified as 2024. So now it's looking like these other countries are going to join. And check out this billboard that was put up in Israel a few days ago showing they've always been on the same damn team and they're working against you. So the billboard was put up in Israel, and let's also look at this Abraham peace coin. The Abraham Accord peace coin symbol includes facial recognition, biosurveillance, and what looks like vaccine shots, zeros and ones as computer language, and the gears. All these aspects of surveillance to turn their gears to promise the dove of peace. There are satellites right next to the Wi-Fi symbol. They are telling you that they are intending to use the Wi-Fi waves through the satellites. They will give you promises of peace with the dove at the top, which is right next to the highest point on the coin, the planet Saturn, which is the god of these people. Saturn and its six-sided magnetic pole is directly tied to the 5 and 6-pointed stars and no other than Satan himself. They have to show you who they worship. Yeah, they put freaking Saturn right on the coin, like, and a heart with the little lines for the biosurveillance. This came out in 2020. Pretty crazy. I thought that was interesting, and I wanted to show you. So I wanted to share this tweet with you guys from a guy named Anton Elov, and he points out exactly why the Abraham Accords are a bad idea. The Abraham Accords, while marketed as peace and normalization agreements between Israel and certain Arab nations, are not necessarily advantageous for many Arab countries for several key reasons. 1. No real progress on Palestinian rights. The core issue for much of the Arab world is the Palestinian cause, and it was sidelined. The Accords offered no meaningful concessions from Israel regarding the occupation of Palestinian land or the establishment of a Palestinian state. Many Arabs see this as a betrayal of the Arab Peace Initiative, which conditioned normalization on a two-state solution. Number 2, economic benefits are unequal. While the Accords promised economic cooperation, much of the gain favors Israel's already advanced tech and defense industries. Arab nations risk becoming consumers rather than equal partners, furthering economic dependence on Israeli and Western technologies. Number 3, security cooperation benefits Israel more. The military cooperation deepens Israel's regional dominance while giving Arab states only marginal benefits. Intelligence sharing may also expose internal affairs of Arab nations to Israeli and U.S. surveillance. Go figure. Increased domestic unrest. The Accords have been unpopular with large segments of the Arab public who see Israel's actions in Gaza and the West Bank as brutal. Governments that signed the Accords without public support risk internal backlash and loss of legitimacy. Number 5, undermining regional unity. The deals were done bilaterally, weakening the collective Arab stance and fragmenting unity on Palestine and broader regional strategy. Number 6, risk of being dragged into conflict. This is a key one. Closer alignment with Israel may pull Arab states into regional conflicts, especially if Israel escalates tensions with Iran or Hezbollah. Hosting Israeli assets or intelligence facilities may make these Arab nations targets in a wider conflict. Exactly. 7, legitimizing settler colonialism. By normalizing relations with Israel without securing concessions on illegal settlements, the Accords risk legitimizing Israel's occupation in the eyes of the world. This sets a dangerous precedent that military occupation and displacement can be normalized without any accountability. Number 8, weakening bargaining power. Arab states give away a major diplomatic card recognition of Israel without getting significant gains in return. This limits their leverage in future negotiations, whether over Palestine, Jerusalem, or broader regional issues. Number 9, dependency on Israel and U.S. tech. The accords promote partnerships in cyber security, surveillance, and defense systems, all dominated by Israel and the U.S. Over time, this could undermine Arab nations' tech sovereignty and leave them vulnerable to digital influence or backdoor surveillance. That's exactly the idea. Number 10, cultural and identity tensions. Normalization has provoked a clash between government policy and public sentiment in many Arab nations. Many citizens feel betrayed by their leaders, leading to a cultural crisis over identity, solidarity, and shared regional struggles. Number 11, undermining the role of Islam's holy sites. Israel's actions in Jerusalem and at the Al-Aqsa Mosque continue without restraint, and Arab normalization has not stopped Israeli encroachment. This weakens Arab and Muslim diplomatic pressure to protect sacred Islamic sites. Yep. Number 12, increased internal repression. To suppress dissent over normalization, some governments have cracked down on journalists, activists, and citizens who oppose the accords, weakening freedoms and civil society. Number 13, loss of moral high ground. By signing the accords, despite ongoing human rights violations in Gaza and the West Bank, Arab governments lose credibility on international justice and resistance to occupation. And last but not least, 14, long-term strategic miscalculation. Israel's interest is primarily self-preservation and regional hegemony, not mutual prosperity. Aligning too closely with Israeli or Western agendas could isolate Arab states from emerging powers like China, BRICS alliances, and regional resistance movements. In essence, the Abraham Accords might offer short-term optics of peace, but they risk long-term erosion of sovereignty, unity, and moral leadership for the Arab world. And none of this is about peace. It's to give the illusion of peace, and that's why all of these right-leaning people are completely fooled. They're thinking short-term when they're not looking at the long-term plan. And simultaneously, while all of this is happening, of course, BRICS is going to have Iran's back, and they're saying, they're condemning the U.S. bombing of Iran, and the whole idea is for the BRICS countries, the East, to take over the West. China is part of BRICS, Russia is part of BRICS, Iran is part of BRICS. So this is all being done on purpose at the same time. And personally, what I believe in a nutshell is Israel is going to be overseeing the West's demise while these BRICS countries come to power and take over the West. That's it in a nutshell. I mean, it's pretty simple and straightforward. And I'm not hearing enough people talking about these BRICS alliances while this is happening, because we're seeing the beginning of the East taking over the West, in my opinion. So let's quickly read about BRICS member states condemning Israeli-American aggression against Iran. This is from globalsecurity.org. The BRICS member states have strongly condemned the Israeli-American aggression against the Islamic Republic of Iran, saying they violated the UN Charter through illegal and unprovoked attacks. Brazil's Ministry of Foreign Affairs, on behalf of the BRICS member nations, in a statement on Wednesday, expressed deep concern over the aggression against Iran. We express grave concern over the military strikes against the Islamic Republic of Iran since June 13, 2025, which constitutes a violation of international law and the Charter of the United Nations. The Organization of Emerging Economies in Brazil, which holds the rotating presidency this year, also called for making West Asia free of nuclear weapons and other weapons of mass destruction. Although not part of the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons Treaty, the Israeli regime is the only entity in West Asia that has nuclear weapons and other weapons of mass destruction. The attacks against Iran's nuclear installations were carried out in violation of international law and relevant resolutions of the International Atomic Energy Agency, said the BRICS statement. BRICS remains committed to promoting international peace and security and to fostering diplomacy and peaceful dialogue as the only sustainable path toward long-term stability in the region, the statement added. The major member states of the BRICS alliance, including China, India, and Russia, have previously condemned the Israeli-American aggression against Iran. Fu Kang, China's representative to the United Nations, said on Tuesday that the Israeli and American attacks on Iran were a gross violation of international law and Iranian sovereignty. He said that Iran has repeatedly stated it does not seek nuclear weapons and has never given up on diplomatic efforts, and using force is an option for resolving international disputes. Russian President Vladimir Putin also said his country condemns acts of aggression against Iran, which were carried out in violation of the UN Charter and international law. After the U.S. struck Iran's nuclear installations, Nebenzia, Russia's representative to the United Nations, said Russia condemns in the most decisive terms the irresponsible, dangerous, and provocative actions committed by the USA against the Islamic Republic of Iran, a sovereign member state to the United Nations. So, there you go. I mean, here we go. Here's where the East begins to take over the West. And that's why earlier on in the episode I said, you know, you can't let this stuff get you down too much. What we can talk about is identifying what's happening, coming up with solutions, and worrying about ourselves, like taking care of ourselves throughout this process to keep ourselves sane, and envisioning their plan not playing out. You know, it's okay to talk about these things, I think, but I think we ultimately have to envision this all not working out in the end for them. Now we're going to cut to a clip of a post from President Trump on Truth Social. He's a peace president? I don't think so.
Bomb Iran, bomb, 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 bomb Iran, bomb, 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 bomb Iran.
I have a dark sense of humor, okay? I have a dark sense of humor. That is not funny. Bombing people is not funny. There's nothing funny about that. So, since we're talking about funny, Alex Jones. All of this crazy shit is happening in the world. And he used to be great at reporting on the most important subjects floating around in the media. Well, 2 days ago, he posted about the Liver King traveling to Austin, Texas to fight Joe Rogan. This is the breaking, and I think he even says in the clip, breaking news maybe. I could be wrong. I'll have to see, but he's reporting on these barbarian men wanting to fight one another, and we have America like on fire. I mean, what the hell is going on?
Exclusive for you that I got from our sources. The Austin Police Department, as we speak, is on their way to a hotel in downtown Austin to arrest the Liver King. Because he's been making a lot of bizarre, cryptic threats to Joe Rogan, and that he's going to come to town and fight him, and now he's there and has posted videos that are very, very direct threats. And so I am told that he's going to be arrested for terroristic threats. And that just shows how crazy society's going. In the videos, he looks extremely deranged with dilated pupils. And so we hope the Liver King gets better. But this is what is happening in America and around the world. We need God, folks. We need God. We need to get back to God.
Because Joe Rogan, we don't have to make videos to pretend anymore. All of this is happening. We're coming to you. I've challenged you man to man to a fight. Honorable. And we don't have to pretend or make any videos. The world is watching. They'll make the videos for us. And you don't have to hold a camera. You can hold the hand of somebody that you love, because what happens next to you, you're going to need to remember that feeling. You're going to need something more than what you did to give you something to fight for, because I have my family to fight for. And I'll die for them, you know that. And you're a black belt, but you've never come across something like this. Willing to die, hoping that you'll choke me out. I pray to God, because that's a dream come true. It feels good. And then the limbs, I'm fighting for my family. So limb. Go ahead. But then you have to contend with something else.
I think Alex Jones now is not only not telling the whole truth, not only lying about things, but now he's posting, this is a complete distraction from important shit that is going on in the world. You're talking about the Liver King traveling to Austin, Texas to fight Joe Rogan, and then the Liver King walking like a fucking baboon on his hands. I was hysterical laughing, but I'm like, you know what this really is? It's sad, first of all, that this is the crap that Alex Jones talks about now, and it's a distraction. They're using mainstream leftist distraction tactics, so you're not paying attention to what's really going on. Let's keep an eye out to see if this continues to happen. I mean, what garbage. Breaking news. The Liver King is coming for Joe Rogan. I mean, it's hilarious. So ridiculous. It's a publicity stunt. Anyway, I had to throw something lighthearted and fun in there today. Meanwhile, we're coming up on 4th of July, and the Trump administration has quietly been preparing to launch AI.gov on July 4th, Independence Day. Why did they pick July 4th to launch AI.gov? This is basically the start of AI taking over the government, and they're doing it on July 4th. If that couldn't be any more symbolic, then I don't know what is. They're declaring independence from your autonomy, and this is not just another government site. It's the biggie to introduce the AI takeover, and it's a centralized command center that will give federal agencies unprecedented power to monitor, analyze, and control through these terrifying components. An AI chatbot assistant, unified API connecting all the systems, and console analytics, which is real-time monitoring. The right will cheer this like it's an initiative to remove, they're going to probably remove a lot of the last of the woke stuff that is lingering and get rid of all that. So they'll cheer that on, and they'll get rid of agencies like the Department of Education, EPA, NOAA, and a lot of them will be dismantled. A lot of those like woke agencies will be dismantled and replaced with AI, and the right is going to cheer that. Listen, the woke agenda was complete dog shit, but this is 10 times worse. So finally this week, Robert Kennedy made a statement that within the next 4 years, he wants every American to wear wearables as part of the MAHA movement to track and monitor your health. And personally, he's been getting a lot of kickback, but personally, I believe that there publicizing this, and he was told to say these things in order to see how the public was going to respond to it, because truthfully, like, your little Fitbit or wearable or whatever is ancient technology now. Like, they are light years ahead of wearables and what they can do. But I think that they want to see how much we actually know about what's happening. And I think that they're monitoring our responses on social media, and they're going to plan their next chess moves in light of what Robert Kennedy said, and what have so many of us said from the beginning: Maha is a monumental scam, and here's the proof.
About their physical activity, about the way that they live their lives. We think that wearables are a key to the Maha agenda, making America healthy again, and we are going to, my vision is that every American is wearing a wearable within 4 years.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary.
I mean, I can't speak on it the way others can, but we've basically been targeted as nodal points via broadband signals without the Fitbit and stuff. And it's all DNA data collection. So they're already doing that stuff without us having to wear a wearable. I think they just want to see what we have to say about it. And that's pretty much it for this week. I hope that I covered the news from a different angle, because I know a lot of what I talked about you probably already were aware of, but I always try to look where nobody else is looking. That's a key point that I'd like to drive home to everybody on this episode. Even the all the things that I talk about, I hope that you learn something from it, but I hope that you also learn to uncover things and think about things in a way that nobody else does, because that's where the truth usually is. Sometimes people that we follow or look up to will give you light bulb moments, but keep going down that path in your own way, because you might be able to take some of the things that I say and figure out more than I have. That's why I love learning from you guys too. So hope you enjoyed it. Like I said, I'll be out next week, and I'll either be back the following week or the week after. And I'm sure that I'll have a lot to catch up on when I return. So I'll see you soon.